Mhm.
Alrighty. Blueprint for Black Power, Chapter 6, Power and Personality. This was a this was pretty interesting chapter for me because Amos Wilson ties in to personalities and how it affects when you have, a group or a person that's in a position in power, and really just factoring in what comes with that. So like one page that I was interested in was page 109 and 110, and basically what he covers in the beginning and to the end of the paragraphs is just what happens when you have someone with a weak personality. And it could be the fact that they're immature, they could be very, emotional or so, or just lack any skills to where it will pretty much damage the system itself, or the group that's surrounded by it. And what I thought was Game of Thrones with Prince Jeffrey, after his father had died in the first season and he became king. Through season 1 to, I don't know, 2, 3, or 4 or whatever, but his immaturity and lack of knowledge of being a king, and not really taking, he took the advice of his mom, but just abusing his power, it damaged the King's Island in the ruling of the Seven Kingdoms. Because we don't even have to go to the age factor, but it was just the fact that he caused a lot of turmoil and created a lot of enemies based on his immaturity. And
Right.
on top of that, the people that suffered with him were his mother, eventually some of the folks from the council, uh, his uncle James, when the mother and James had a thing going on, and then it just caused many wars. Now everybody was just going after the king's island, because he's not making the right decisions. He's not in the right frame to make the right decisions. So we want blood. Like, you killed the king of Winterfell, and now you caused mayhem. So to me, that was really, really insightful, because you got to have people that have a strong mind, and on top of that aren't, just that they're not incompetent. Like, we go back to, different types of
Yeah.
power, how competency is very important. It's not just the authority part, by right or by inheritance, but do you know what you're doing?
Right. I mean, he was able to finagle his way into the top spot, I guess you could say. But yeah, as far as competency, it's like, yeah, you've got some sort of power, but you have to be competent as well. And it just with the chaos that his incompetence caused ultimately affects his power.
Right. And
Yeah,
and also too,
it's not just getting there; it's keeping it.
it's exactly. And then it's so ironic, because the live stream that we've had earlier today, taking my ball and going home, which targets, individualism, and how it shouldn't be just this solo dolo mentality, but going as a herd, going as a group. Pretty much Amos Wilson touches up on that a lot. Like, I remember somebody in the comment section, they had mentioned rugged individualism, and you actually see it in the book. I forgot what page it was. It was page 112. Yeah. It was page 112. And as soon as I saw that word, I was like, wow, we were just talking about this in the live stream. Mm-hmm. Because again, if this person has the personality of being a dictator, you know, wanting to rule, you know, having control for himself and be the one giving commands, being embracing his ideas and not others, then you not only you debunk the people around you, but you're also hurting, you know, the position that you're in as well, and the system itself, because you're not open for any ideas. It's just, you know, it's my way or the highway type of deal. And then that causes a division within, you know. Right. So I really just thought it was very interesting how the live stream that we have definitely ties into this chapter, because it does boil to personality. It does.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. This was a good one. What jumped out at me, well, I enjoyed reading the whole chapter, but we talk about the personality dispositions, the other directed, tradition directed, and the inner directed. And that was fascinating. I loved how he went into detail. And I say on page 120, well, I have a few things marked off, but part of the second paragraph, he says, in other words, in order for blacks to be more readily to more readily respond to the social, political, and economic dictates of whites, they must be more intensely other-directed in their personality dispositions than tradition-directed or inner-directed, in contrast to relatively more self-directed personality dispositions of whites, particularly the white ruling elite. And he really breaks down the other-directed. It was a couple pages, more than a couple pages down. And I had check marks. Hold on a second. Let me find that, because I thought that was critical, and I had it. I'm sorry. One second.
It's all good.
Of course, I can't find it. Yeah, but he talks about basically when some of the examples he was given when people were focusing on individuals, but he's saying you could substitute, you know, the word individual with groups, because it's relevant as far as the group dynamics. And for us, how he was describing things, we are more focused currently, even then, and this was the 90s, other directedness outwardly, what somebody else, some other group, and this, you know, as for the most part, we're talking about the white-black dynamic, how our behaviors, how we feel about ourselves, everything, how our personality, quote unquote, is shaped, is according to somebody else's standards and their dictates. And I found this on 124, where he has 3 paragraphs, 4. Where he says the other directed African personality is one characterized by subjective feelings of personal and group inadequacy, resentful dependency and submissiveness, conservatism and conformity, tolerance and frustration, either low self-esteem or narcissistic high self-esteem, inadequate or inappropriate self-concept. I mean, it just goes on. That was one of the paragraphs. And the whole time I'm just nodding my head.
Right.
It says the other African personality is a vacuous personality, an empty shell, a bottomless pit, an African container devoid of African content and therefore suffering a chronic sense of emptiness. Another one is wounded personality, produced by crippling blows to its African-originated ego, to its self-esteem, self-love, and self-knowing. I mean, all of it, it really, he hits the nail on it again. Hits the nail on the head. I thought that was really, and you know, of course, ultimately when he sums things up, I mean, we'll get to that. What we need to focus more on is being much less the other directed person that have that personality characteristic, and more of the inner directedness, much more of that, and the tradition directedness,
right?
Which he breaks down. But that you know, I know we'll go on, but that to me, he took up a good amount of this chapter discussing that, and that really stood out.
Yeah. Even going to the dispositions on page 118, I even was fascinated by the table that was created.
Yes, yeah.
With the complementary of, white and black social, the roles that
Yes.
this system has played, where basically on the left side, white is right, when it comes to IQ, the way they express themselves, proactive and ascendance and dominance and all. And they view us as, descending, allowing things to happen, low IQ, daggone evil, darkness. And it's just like, wow. But that's how they designed it, in order for this to be exercised. And if we're seeing ourselves, as high, we have to pump in their minds that they're low. And I was just very, very, fascinated by the table, because it speaks true, like that's how they view us. And we have to go, as you said, to the inner direct and change that, because
unfortunately, it's worked. How some of us, far too many, feel about us, and how we encourage our own to fit into onto this table. The check marks on the right side go down, and it's like, okay, this is how they view us. So this is how we are. This must be how we are, and shape our behaviors, our lifestyles, everything, shape our lives to fit into this mold. When we said the sociometric dispositions, on the one side, the rejecting of others, the exclusiveness, and for us, accepting of others, inclusiveness. Way too much of that. Way too far. I think more than any other group, the inclusiveness in everything, every bit of our lives, and some of that I think back. I said, well, you think of the nature of slavery, the vulgarity. Are completely 100% invaded. Right. Every aspect of your life,
right,
are invaded, and that even being out of that, put that in quotes, out of that situation, just the ramifications, and not completely, and the systems that are put in place to keep control, even though you're not in exact chattel slavery. But you're completely invaded. So that inclusiveness, I said, that's generations of having that hammered into you. Like everybody, and specifically the group that enslaved us, has the absolute right to be in everything we do, everything we think, to shape, form, and mold everything about us. We have the discriminate sociability, the indiscriminate sociability. Internally controlled sympathy, and for us, externally uncontrolled sympathy. I was like, just like I said, the whole chapter just nodding head. Yeah. This table really is another one that just I said just hammers his point home beautifully.
And I thought too, like, this isn't even just done by them, but we can even look at conscious communities that use this, against our own people, and they even see, their own people, in the same light, just for their own benefit, whether that's making more money or having a certain status. They have to use that personality and power of a low IQ or whatever, just so they could get, a profit or such. And you don't want to tell them the whole truth, because then the cash flow is going to start. It's going to stop. Right. So it's like it's amazing how it's being used not only just from one aspect, but also internally as well. And I just love this, because again, from the live stream and even now, this is the process of determining the we. What's the self-concept as we learn in chapter 5 of this person? What is their personality? When it's a discussion, do they seem like they want to just take over and seek revenge? Like, this is it's like a, oh dear, how I don't know. It's like an interrogation thing. Like, we need to find some triggers. we need to know, are you sane enough for nationhood? Because
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
a big
This is part
deal.
of the vetting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I really,
Oh, absolutely.
I really thought it was good. I really did. And then I think from page 115, when he talks about the other directed, correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh,
The beginning of it
mhm.
was how someone that he studied when it came to socialization and social power was always starting it from young, at a young age. You
Yes,
know how
yes.
children between 5 or 6, you know, this is a very
Sure.
important. It was a very important phase because at that time they're seeking development, like who they are. They're finding their identity and stuff like that. And so when you control the youth, then you have control of a generation, you know,
Right.
and how they're going to approach things and respect authority too, you know, or how do they see power? Because going back from chapter 1, right, for those, you know, that hear about power, some are going to be afraid of it, and then some are going to either stand up to it. You know, there's
Yeah.
always some
Yeah,
that
he
are
went
going.
into that again in here. Yep. Yep.
Right. Some are going to be submissive
Hmm.
to it, while others, you know, they're going to take a stand and such. So I thought that was
Fight back. That's right.
right.
Yep.
I thought that was very interesting again, because, you know, that going back to the youth and the future, it's very important. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, so.
Well, I like that you touched on that too here on page 1, because I had some things underlined in that first paragraph under the other directed African American personality. When he has political socialization, essentially involves the conservative process, which facilitates the maintenance of the status quo by inducing people to accept the system under which they exist, to accept the decisions of the powers that be without question. And I wrote on the side here, why are there black quote unquote conservatives in the USA? Because that was a question that I'd heard several
Right.
people over the years ask us, like, well, I can understand why you would say you're want to be a quote unquote liberal or progressive, or somehow change things. You want that overall title, even though there are people who are under that label, you know, that are, you know, kind of comfortable with the system and bucket only when it affects them personally. But just the concept of wanting to liberate yourself from how, you know, things are currently arranged. I get that. But why in the world from us would you call yourself that? And and I said, why are they what are they, excuse me, what are they conserving? I said, when people talk about, you know, I'm you know, I don't believe that the woman should have a choice for abort, you know, to
Yeah.
have an abortion or
Yeah.
something like that. So when they talk about those, say those issues, maybe it's something religious or something like that. But most of the time, it's like when you're seeing that label, and it's conserving the system as it is. It's like they're not bucking anything really with the system
Right.
as it is. And I said I said this chapter involves you know what causes coons in my in you know how I think of it, because when we go further, when you talk about the othering, he really discusses the incentives given for, you know, to people to not you know, behave and work in a way that's best for our people.
Right.
They're yeah, they're incentivized, they're rewarded to not do that. And it's and as you were saying, from an early age, like, yeah, that's, and it's not, and since not being more inner directed, being more other directed, of course, then that's really going to dominate how you know how you feel about yourself. And if they're saying, again, if they're saying you do this and this, you're not thinking,
Right.
this goes against my well-being and my people's well-being, so no, I'm not going to do that. But no, but they're saying to do it, so I need to do it. Not being inner directed, you're being other directed. And it's I just thought it was wonderful because I was like, it's at some point we're going to get to in the book how we come across people who, I said not name calling, but folks who actively work against the best interests of our people. And we talk about people in leadership roles, if it's in the courts, judges who are from our community, but they'll do everything possible to please everybody else but us. The political process, it's pretty amazing. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Being other directed versus inner directed in tradition. Yeah, this was a very good chapter.
I like
good chapter.
I like how in page 111 too, where he talks about personality, being more than just thinking, feeling, behavioral characteristics, but also how a person solves problems. That right there is very important because, again, we embrace, having different mindsets because not every person has all the answers. And when he talks about under the section of division of labor, there's going to be times where one person, somebody or a group of people have a solution where it has to be applied to everyone in order to move forward maybe a certain time of the season. Like, let's say for an example, right? Let's say logically Noah knew that, the rain, the storm was coming and he had to build the ark. And for some way, somehow, through his personality and his idea, he has to get that across to everybody else. And they're either going to, go along with it after the explanation and the analysis, or they're going to, they're going to die because they didn't listen and they didn't put their, their feelings and their ideas aside, or the fact that they just don't know, So I thought that was good because, again, when you have different people with different, ways of being strategic, it keeps things fresh and you're able to adapt, because this could boil down to somebody specializing in one area and the other person may lack in another. And so they're like, well, okay, then let's turn to Helena. Helena, you know much about I don't know, climate change. What should we do if this tornado's about to come? Well, we got to do this, that, and the third. Okay, cool. Send the word out, and then everybody follows suit. But if the people in charge are not, in cohesive unit, because they're just always about, themselves, then not only the group dies or it becomes, it perishes, but eventually it becomes chaotic because the people, it's not organized anymore. And so to me, I thought that was really good. But then going to the the summary, well, not the summary, but before that, it was from page 131 to 135 where he had,
looking at that right now.
The inventory. What were your thoughts about that?
I thought that was excellent. This is something that was created by someone else. I'm sorry, Koto, Curricular Domains, which provide the basis for the organization of the subject matter within a prototypical African-centered curriculum. And I thought it was fantastic. We're talking about 2 and 3/4 pages of a breakdown, and it gives it, the title, and he has the aim for each, section here. This is the spirituality and the psycho-affective, cultural and ideological, socio-political and economic. And yeah, it's like, wow. A
Right.
lot of thought went it a lot. It covers that, and then when he goes into what was it? Oh, there's more. When he discusses the curricular domain specifically, and he's got paragraph or two on that. I was wondering. I was like, oh yeah. I mean, this is guess what he's saying, the core. And of course, we were talking about mathematics. Like he has technology, the cultural and ideological, spiritual, psychoaffective, socio-political and economic, technology, nation building, practical and application. So this is something that's like, I guess no matter what, these are critical to have if you're talking about raising an African-centered child to reclaim our Africanness.
Exactly.
In this current day, it's critical to have that, and as well as obviously learning English, or not English, but learning, the language, whatever we're speaking, or learning, I guess, an African language. I would say to add into that, and he has some other things in here, but yeah, I thought that was great.
And
it was great.
And this just goes to show why this book is the blueprint for Black Power. I mean, we got tables.
Literally, yeah.
We got a daggone inventory that we can use as a guideline, and really just sums up what we're trying to do with, Liberia, and just with nationhood, period. So it's like, all of it has been done for us, as far as just the basic foundation. Now we just have to put into use. And then when you touched on nation building too, I was like, these are other points that we could use as to why, nationhood is so effective and is definitely needed. Like, it creates career development, apprenticeships, job opportunities, basically, for people to be productive in a society. Daggone community, you're developing a community and organizational experience. We always talk about organization, right? So yeah, I really like this this inventory that was laid out.
Yes.
Oh man.
As you say, each curricular domain includes several specific subjects that are integrated to reduce the compartmentalization that is typical of subject-centered curriculums. So yeah, it's a full. It covers. It's like, man, covers. It covers quite a bit. It's like this is yeah, as you said, yeah, literally, yeah, the blueprint.
Literally the blueprint.
Yeah. And there was something else I had here. Let's see, there was. I mean, I guess when we sum up, because he goes into this being part of the reconstruction of the African personality, how we turn things around, from being other directed to inner directed, and this would be part of being inner directed. We have that as our basis, as what we go to. We're considering our morals, our values, and how we should proceed. Is that we have with this type of education, formally in school as well as in the home and in the community, that when you're inner directed, this is what you'd go to. This is what you'd pull from. You'd have this positivity and knowledge of self and of our people to pull from, versus somebody else telling you what our people are and how we should behave. Like in that table, the opposite, whatever is positive on one side is negative for us. That type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Everything
he says the African. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, as we touched on from the last chapter, it not only it's about renewing the identity, but now also, going inward, internal communications, the inner self, and not going external, because externally, people will say anything about us. And
That's right. That's exactly right.
and if you're at a vulnerable state, you know, you would accept it because you just want an answer and then just go about your day. But we have to reframe that into what do we, you know, as a collective, what is our culture? What is our identity that we're going to create here? You know?
I think a great example of that is when, and I think you all touched on this. I didn't hear the entire live stream. I heard a lot of it. When people identify as something else, but when some of our folks here in the U.S. say that we're quote unquote indigenous and other things like that. So, okay, then when you want to dig in before you leap to conclusions, want to dig in, what do you mean by indigenous? And there's some folks who identify, I guess, as another cultural group, with the Native American population, or somehow part of that. It's like, okay, well then again, what do you mean? Do you know for sure that you have an ancestor that was, that type of thing? And it's the whole thing of, well, no, that's just, we were here first, and it's not really based on, not that I know of. When I hear people say that, it's just kind of a, we were here and that type of thing. Yeah, there's definite evidence that from way in the beginning. But what we're talking about is being an African people. Even if that were the case, that we were here before any other group, the point is we didn't start here. So it's still relevant. Like what we're discussing with the print for Black Power, to focus on our Africanness, and that as our base. So yeah, you looking outside of that, you see somebody else, and even if they're not directing that towards you, they're talking about themselves, and you're getting your desires and what you think is a positive. Listening to somebody else, you're not focusing on literally what your people have done and what your people are to themselves, what we're talking about amongst ourselves, and what we're saying about ourselves and our history, and discussing our progress. You automatically look to another group, and it's that outwardly that other directedness. They're saying this. This is what I'm going to key off of and say that I'm that. I think that's another part of it, just wanting to be something else, and trying to incorporate that into being proud of who you are when that's not even who you are.
Right.
Yeah. He summed up I think it's too long to. Oh no, maybe not. He summed it up last page 135, but also like halfway through the chapter. He had a summation. I'll read that instead. He says the achievement of true Black power by the African American community and the Pan-African community first and foremost requires that these communities reconstruct their socio-psychological predispositions founded on an inner-directed, African-centered self-knowledge, self-awareness, and identity. And again, it hammers home the point of taking control ourselves. That it's got to be something that we do. It's turning inward, again, as opposed to looking for what we're so used to doing, is looking for acceptance or guidance from some other group, and they absolutely don't have the best interests of our group in mind. It's the interest that they have in mind is how to serve them.
Exactly.
So again, it's hammering home the point. That's not what you need to do. Looking outward to other people, we need to decide our future and how we're going to progress. The best ways of going about it. We need to make that decision. Again, I'll just reiterate. I thought it was another very good chapter. That other directedness is like, wow, that really hit home. It really hit home.
Well,
I'd like to add in, citizens Blacks are autonomous agents who are free to set and order their own goals and priorities are now free to act in order to pursue their own ends. Blacks are by nature denied such autonomy and therefore are destined to act to achieve the goals set for them by whites rather than to act to achieve their own self-determined goals. Page 119, middle paragraph. And and that kind of explains the do it right here on Nation Within the Nation and all these things that we don't really have. Part of it, I think, is that the concept of us governing us, we don't.
But basically, he was saying from page 119, just we can do it right here, folks, and how if we do it right here, it just still benefits the agenda for whites. Because
because we touched on it says under white supremacy, blacks are socialized or conditioned from conception serve the will of dominant whites. They are positively reinforced for conforming to the social roles assigned them. They are made to suffer if they do not conform. Is the collective black personality transformed and shaped to meet the demands of white supremacy? And we were touching on that, or not touching. We were discussing that, and I think that's what Agendia was talking about. Yeah, that the whole thing, it was like you ain't going to go anywhere. Do things here.
Yeah.
No, we can't live without. And that was something else in the chapter. Like you can't. The mentality is therefore that you can't do anything without having this other group involved, and it's like it's in everything. It's in everything, and that's reinforced, making that the standard, and the standard is not us.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
And an example I was thinking of was whenever, like, I would think sometimes when an entertainer passes away, and if that entertainer is like an African American entertainer, and it's or just an entertainer in general, and the need to, like, for instance, a singer, and say Grammy nominated or Grammy award winning so and so. It's like, and this person is incredibly famous. Why do I need to know their Why would that need to be put into the description of them as though Grammy defines them? Right. Now, in the business, that's or Academy Award winning. In the business, that's the highest honor, or what have you. So if you're listing somebody's awards, go ahead and do that. But say Grammy Award winning so-and-so has died. Like, huh?
Right.
And the person they're talking about is tremendously famous. Like, why would you need to do that? So I was going to say and in little ways it's reinforced. It just, that's what we think about. It really doesn't make sense to do, like, that elevates them. No, they elevated the awards. I mean, especially black entertainers, the incredible talent is, if they didn't win, so what? They're the standard. You're not. Having that award is not the standard. But our people accept that, too many of our folks accept that and go along with that. Like I said, Academy Award winning or Grammy Award winning, like, that's amongst their awards, but that doesn't make them, they're world famous. So why would you need to reference an award when they died to the yeah, and you know how many times you hear that Grammy winning so and so passed on.
Right.
Yeah. Died today. Who cares about the award? So and so, this tremendously famous person died today. We all know who it is, so why do we need to hear about the award?
Yeah.
I was like, putting that is the standard.
Great way to close it out. Chapter 7 is Class, Race, and Power in America.